What's going on? Got this book here, Legends of the American Indian Resistance. Pretty cool, but second chapter is about Pontiac. Uh, very renowned guy. Look on page. What? Weird. Right here, look. Final peace agreement. This is Pontiac's actions in late 1764 and throughout the winter are uncertain, but April 8th, 1765, however, Pontiac arrived with other Ottawa warriors at Fort de Chartres, Illinois, still hoping to enlist other opposition to the British. During the same month, a party held by Alexander Fraser arrived at the fort with the goal of asserting British dominance. Fraser warned Saint Angle de Bellevre, or something like that, who had succeeded Dineo as commander against helping the Indians fight the British. Although less than pleased by the threat, Saint Ange reminded Fraser he could not control what Pontiac or any other Indian did, and then invited his guests to dinner. After the meal, Pontiac arrived with a number of supporters and took Fraser captive. Pontiac relented from his action at St. Ange's urging and allowed Fraser to remain at the fort, although a small contingent of troops, approximately 50, offered limited protection. And Fraser met with Pontiac the following day. I'm reading. And assured him that the Shawnees, Delawares, and Iroquois had already made peace. Pontiac, based on conversation with the Shawnees over the winter, did not believe they had come to any significant agreement with the British, and also argued the British-French Treaty of 1763 did not apply to the Illinois region. Nonetheless, Pontiac began to become concerned that the Great Lakes region might be lost, and expressed more conciliatory tone towards Fraser. He defended his brief capture of Fraser the night before as an attempt to ensure the officer's safety, and expressed a willingness to speak to George Croghan, who was reportedly on his way towards Fort de Chartres, maybe. Croghan never arrived, and Fraser remained in the area for about 6 weeks, developing a great respect for Pontiac's leadership, intelligence, integrity, and humanity. Finally, having decided to return to Ohio and demonstrating a fondness for the British officer, Pontiac urged Fraser to leave his own protection, fearing what might happen in his absence. Fraser took the advice and departed on May 29th, descending the Mississippi to New Orleans, with the British consequently failing once again to secure Illinois. Croghan had left Fort Pitt in May 1765, expecting to join Fraser in Illinois on June 8th. However, he was taken captive by Kickapoos, Mascoutins. Croghan was finally released in July, perhaps in part because of a message from Pontiac expressing a willingness to hold discussions with him. Pontiac's growing acceptance of a need to discuss peace was left at least partly a response to the general movement of the native peoples in the Midwest towards peace agreements, most recently the Miamis, and then negotiations. Pontiac, accompanied by Iroquois and Delaware and Shawnee representatives, met Croghan near present-day location of Allerton in east-central Illinois. The parties then returned to Oteetown, where they formally discussed the concession of hostilities. Pontiac insisted he never sold any land to the British, and that he would not yield to British rule. Nonetheless, he was ready to cease fighting. Croghan respected Pontiac's intelligence and respected the other Indians, and the respect that other Indians had for him, but had little sympathy for the Indian point of view. Indeed, he noted in a letter back to Fort Pitt that he had hoped to undermine Pontiac's standing with his own Ottawas. Croghan and Pontiac's parties left for Oeatinan for Detroit on July 25th after Croghan had informed General Gage that it was now safe to send troops to Fort Carteret. And on August 17th, Pontiac and Croghan reached Fort Detroit, and at the same fort just 2 years earlier, Pontiac and his allies tried so hard to capture. Pontiac, along with the Chippewas, Hurons, Potawatomis, met with Croghan on August 27th, at which time Croghan stressed the benefits of peace. The meeting resumed the next day. Pontiac declared his desire for peace, promised to send a pipe to Sir William Johnson, and asked that his people be extended credit to purchase powder and lead for hunting. A week later, on September 4th, Pontiac restated his long-held position that his people had never sold land to the French or the British, and so they should receive payment for the land that the British were using forts and trading posts. On this point, the British had no intention of yielding, although some individuals, both French and British perhaps, to avoid conflicts with Pontiac, sought and received deeds from him for parcels of land, and the agreement ended Pontiac's military efforts against the British. And Croghan, reflecting on his interaction with Pontiac, concluded that the Ottawa leader enjoyed more respect from the collective Indian nations than any other Indian received even from his own people. Yeah, I see Pontiac a lot around here in Michigan. There's a lot of roads named after Pontiac, and city of Pontiac. A car named after this guy. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, right in the beginning of this book, it talked about Squanto, like that Disney movie. That was actually a real guy, and they took him to England, and then he came back, and then he actually, I think, went back to full Indian, like off the reservation status. Yeah, this is it's just like the Gadsden Purchase. It's like, who did the Mexicans get the deed for that part of the country from when Indians lived there that weren't attached to Mexico? Or how did the French get that deed for the large tract of the middle of America when you can't just get one guy and get him to sign it over, because no one owned it all. Indians didn't really own the land. They actually just kind of earned rights to occupy the land until they either needed to move or someone stronger kind of, pushes you off, or you divide the land and let other people have usage of it. Like, it's just way different. And it's funny right here, like, it's like Pontiac figured it out. He's like, look, we didn't sell you this, and you owe us rent for building your stuff on our land that you have no rights to. And sadly, I think Pontiac is killed by another Indian too, but it probably wasn't just it's kind of like Soldier Slim got shot by some random thug in the streets because the dude was famous, and the other guy was, trying to get his street cred up, so he murked him. I mean, scenarios like this happen all the time, even now. Cowboys and Indians, man. Bloods and Crips. It's always been that way. It still is.